Good afternoon. This is Brian Split with Allendale for your closing commentary for Thursday, September 15th, 2011. And we did have selling across the board for the grains. Funds were very active sellers today, and definitely you could see the sell stops getting triggered as the session matured. But December corn was down 23 and a quarter cents. Settlement was 7.01. We did manage to hold $7 as far as trade during the day, and we would have to imagine that that's going to be the next target for these bears to push through 7 and run more stops. D's 12 corn was down 19 and 3/4 cents at 6.32, and it was estimated that the funds did sell about 25,000 contracts of corn. On the soybeans, November beans down 24 at 13.58 and 3/4. Again, we did hold the psychological area of 1350, and we need to hold that. Otherwise, this market's pointing down towards that 1330 and then $13. The November 12 contract was down 22.5 at 1346 and a quarter. And again, estimated sales for fund activity here, 8,000 contracts in the beans. On the wheat, not quite as bad. We did have December Chicago finish down 8.5 at 696, but interestingly enough, December Kansas City wheat up 3 1/4 at the end of the day at 795 1/4, and December Minneapolis wheat up 6 1/4 at 871. Hard to think of a reason why wheat should be rallying right now, but possibly we could be seeing some spread unwinding between corn and wheat, and that may have provided some support to the wheat market today. But again, the funds were very active sellers. We had a lot of reasons to try and rally this morning. We did have the frost freeze overnight, although most are saying that the temperatures were not quite as bad as predicted, but actual reports from soybean producers up north indicate that we did have indeed cold temperatures and a lot of personal accounts of being able to smell the beans in the field, which is not a good sign. So there was some damage done. But if the funds are selling, they don't care what the headlines are. If they're going to get out, they're going to get out, and that's what they did today. The technicals don't look very good. We're in the game right now where the market's going to go down. It's going to find support. If it holds, we'll get a little bit of a bounce. But if it takes that support out, we're going to go down and find the next area. So, again, if we get below $7 on D's corn, next target's going to be that 680 to 685 area, and potentially below that about 665. And on the Novi beans, if we do take out 1350, next stop would be probably that 1330 area, and if we run through that, then a retest of $13. One thing that wanted to note is that, again, we did have big fund activity today. The funds sold 25,000 contracts of corn. So just went into some of the archives and said, okay, well, what happens after the funds do a big day of buying or selling, anything 20,000 contracts or more? The last time the funds traded more than 20,000 contracts in corn was on August 26th, and that day we did have the market sharply higher. And the very next day, we put in our contract high of 779. Also on August 2nd, the funds bought 23,000 contracts. We made a high the very next day of 718.5, and a few sessions later, we were back down to 668 3/4. And I've also noticed that type of pattern in history previous to August. So if that type of pattern does continue, then realistically we'll probably see corn trade lower, whether it's 690, 685, somewhere below 7 is likely, and we may put in a short-term low if that is the case. Again, as we get into next week, the mentality may be different. We've got a report at the end of the month to look forward to, so if this market finds itself $1 off of contract highs, that may be enough to bring in some short covering and stabilize this market, but obviously only time will tell. As far as outside market activity in the meats, we did have hogs higher today. October up 75 at 89.15. December up 92 at 84.77. A little bit different story in the cattle market. Cattle October down 185 at 119.15. December down 157 at 119.32, and that was actually after trading higher very early in the session. So The cattle markets had taken out some trend lines yesterday, looked poised to make a move higher, but they did reach our price objectives, and today when we found cash trading at 118 with futures up near 121, that had to correct itself, and correct it did. Outside of that, the Dow futures rallying today. We've got Dow futures up about 165 points, S&P up almost 20 points. Part of that is because the European central banks came out this morning and announced that they were going to make moves to boost liquidity for their banks. Liquidity in the European banks has been one of the issues that we've seen over the past several weeks, really piggybacking off of the bigger issue, which is the Greek debt. So the European central banks making that announcement today did make the market happy, at least for now. The dollar index down over 60 points, which is a pretty good move for the dollar after this massive move higher that we've had. So all in all, that is being supportive to some of the markets, but not all. Crude oil up 40 cents today at 89.31, roughly in that area. We are at the upper end of a range that we've been in since the last major downward move, and $90 a barrel on a closing basis could be key. We've had the market trade up to about 90.50. So if we can take those moves, those 90.50 areas out, might have some higher highs to come. The downtrend will come in just above $92 a barrel, and that's from the high that we had off of all the geopolitical risk several months ago. But gold also down today, down about $35 an ounce at $17.91, so back below 1800, and silver down about 70 cents at 39.83, so below 40 on the silver as well. But that is your recap for the day. We've got one day of trading left in the week, and we'll see how we can manage to finish the day. Hopefully these markets can find some support for the grains and work on some higher prices to come as we go into these reports. But I've talked to an alarming amount of producers that have not marketed any of their crop that is currently growing, and it's alarming that we've seen $7 cash, we've seen $7.80 on the board. Some guys have gotten $7.50 cash opportunities and still haven't sold any of it. What are they waiting for? Maybe $6 is what they're going to end up with. But if you're one of those guys, you may want to start looking at some strategies to at least make sure that this bleeding doesn't get any worse. If you're in that mindset, give us a call at the office at 1-800-2-MARKET, 1-800-262-7538. You can also look us up online at www.allendale-inc.com. And good luck trading to you tomorrow. Thank you.